Namaste from the hallowed halls of Bharat, Adhyayan, Kendra, Banaras Hindu University. I am visiting Professor Indrani Rampersad from Bharat, Adhyayan, Kendra, Banaras Hindu University. I'm a third to fourth generation born person of Indian origin from Trinidad and Tobago, and I live in both Trinidad and Tobago and the USA in terms of diaspora. I'm the coordinator of this course that is being run under the very watchful eyes and expertise of Professor Sadashiv Dwivedi and other staff members. And we are very happy to have you join us in this process of learning and sharing. We welcome your comments, and if time is short, please share your questions and thoughts via WhatsApp and your email, the email group to which we belong. We look forward to learning and sharing in a safe environment. We'll begin with the Mangalacharan by Vivek Tiwari of Banaras Hindu University as we pay obeisance to Ma Saraswati and the founder of BHU, Madan Mohan Malviyaji. It is.
हरि ओम मा अग्निर्ज्योतिर्ज्योतिः सूर्याः स्वाहा अग्निर्वर्चो ज्योतिर्वर्चाः स्वाहा सूर्योपर्चो ज्योतिर्वर्चाः स्वाहा ज्योतिः सूर्याः सूर्यो ज्योतिः स्वाहा जज्जाग्रातो दूरामुदैति दैवन्तादो शुक्तस्याताथैवैति दूरङ्गामञ्ज्योतिखाञ्ज्योतिरेकन्तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु जेन कर्माण्यपाशो मानीखिणो जज्ञे कृण्वन् दिव्यदाथे खुधीराः जादा पूर्वं गच्छामन्ताः प्राजानान्तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु जत्प्रज्ञानामुता चेतो धृतिश्च जज्ञोतिरन् तारामृतं पराजासु जसमान्न अरेते किञ्चन कर्म क्रियाते तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु जत्प्रज्ञानामुता चेतो धृतिश्च जज्ञोतिरताः जेनेदं भूतं भुवनं भावयत्परिग्रहि तामामृतेन सर्वन्ना जेन जज्ञस्तायाते सप्ताहोता तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु सुखाराथिरसवानि वाजन्मानुखियान्येनि यातेभिः सुभिर्वाजिन इव हृत्प्रातिष्ठन् जादाजिरञ्जाविष्ठन् तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु सादाशसपाति मद्धूतं प्रियामिन्दरस्याकामियं मा सानिं मेधामायासि खद्कुसवाहा जाम्मेधान् देवगणाः पितरश्चोपासाते तयामामद्या मेधायाग्ने मेधावीनं कुरुसवाहा मेधां मे वरुणो ददातु मेधामग्निः प्रजापतिः मेधामिन्द्रश्च वायुश्च मेधान् धाता ददातु मे स्वाहा इदं मे ब्रह्मा चक्षतरञ्चोभे श्रियामसनुतां मायि देवा दधातु श्रियामुत्तमान्तस्यै ते स्वाहा हरिः ओम
Friends all, it is my very distinct pleasure, honor, to introduce Professor Sadashiv Kumar Dwivedi, coordinator at the Bharat Adhyayan Kendra. He's a leading specialist of Sanskrit literature and poetics at one of the premier seats of Sanskrit learning in the world, Banaras Hindu University, where we are seated here and where you are joining us from all parts of the world. We have you from Brazil, Trinidad and Tobago, Suriname, South Africa, Fiji, United States, and of course, our lovely Bharat. See, Professor has over 30 years of teaching and research at two central universities, Aligarh Muslim University and Banaras Hindu University, with over 2,500 students that he has taught at graduate and postgraduate levels, with 22 PhD research scholars, awarded degrees, and 6 under guidance. He's a multilingual author and editor of 23 major publications covering Kalidas Lexicon, an anthology of Sanskrit poetics, 11 volumes of Sahitya Astra Samuchaya, criticism of poetry, critical editions and translations, and he has won public and academic acclaim for this wonderful work. 80 research papers, articles, and book chapters, and 110 national and international seminar presentations. He's the leader of 6 major research projects in Sanskrit literature at Banaras Hindu University and Kalidas Sansthan, Varanasi. A versatile academic with first-hand experience in administration of departmental and university affairs. He's an award-winning multi-gold medalist, first-class first student of literary fundamentals under leading scholars of modern times, including his very revered and famous father, Mahama Upadhyay, Professor Rampersad Dwivedi, Sanatana. Thank you, Professor.
वागर्थाविव संपृक्तौ वागर्थ प्रतिपत्तये जगतः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ सर्वमंगल मांगल्ये शिवे सर्वार्थ साधिके शरण्ये त्र्यंबके गौरी नारायणी नमोस्तुते. Today we are here for the Introduction to India's Diaspora course, a 3-week course being introduced by Bharat Adhyayan Kendra, Banaras Hindu University. At the outset, I welcome all the dignitaries, all the well-known resource persons who have very gratefully accepted our invitation to deliver lectures in this Introduction to India's Diaspora course. I welcome all the participants from various parts of India and all around the world who have very enthusiastically joined this course to learn something new with regard to the India's diaspora. I also welcome Dr. Anuradha Goyalji, a leading specialist in Bharatiya Lok Kala. I welcome the centenary visiting fellows of Bharat Adhyayan Kendra who have been instrumental in making this course a great success. I welcome the teaching associates of Bharat Adhyayan Kendra and the various participants who are present here offline and the other participants who are present online. As you all know, this online course, Introduction to India's Diaspora, is designed to increase awareness about India's tangible and intangible presence in diverse countries worldwide. India's diaspora communities have great success stories that make us all proud of our culture. While India has a long history of migrations outside of India, especially visible in Southeast and Central Asia, Indian migration increased in numbers under European colonization as the end of slavery saw the need for a new labor force to replace the African slaves in European colonies. The endangered system started in the 1830s in India as large numbers of Indians went on contracts to work as indentured laborers in British, French, and Dutch colonies. They went to places like Africa, the Caribbean, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific. Traders and government administrative workers were among those who migrated for work in the colonial governments in those places. Many looked forward to returning to India at the end of their contracts, but that did not happen. They constitute the oldest Indian diaspora in modern times and are called indentured Indians, Jahaji and Girmitia. After India's independence, many Indians migrated to England for higher wages and study. Following the oil boom in the Gulf region since the 1970s, there has been a huge outflow of skilled and unskilled migrants to that region. They now form the largest number of Indian migrants. Then there is the more recent migration of IT professionals to industrialized and advanced economies. India's diaspora are becoming more interconnected with new communication technologies and better and faster travel connections. Virtual diasporas are a reality today as communities of Indians establish virtual platforms for remaining interconnected. A source diaspora country like India can leverage its diasporas for development projects. Today, there are closer economic, social, and political ties across India's diasporas. At the same time, these diasporas are not homogeneous. They have great differences between them. India remains an important source of diaspora support through cultural and spiritual connections. Ancient history, culture, archaeology, education, literature, a wealth of experts with ancient Indian wisdom, and harmonious blend of dharma traditions, and a wonderful place for tourism. It stands out globally as a civilizational culture that shows how diverse peoples and cultures have lived in harmony through the ages. I would like to mention here that there are two very important texts in Sanskrit composed in India. One is Srimad Bhagavad Gita and the second is Panchatantra. These two texts have traveled to various countries in the form of translation. They have been translated all around the world in large number, and these texts have been read out by the people of various countries, starting from India to Iran, Iraq, Europe, and even in America and many other countries. This is a literature which has actually impressed a lot of people all around the world. This course should whet your intellectual appetite to explore India's relationship with its various diasporas worldwide, particularly in our current times. During the course, 12 number of lectures will be delivered by number of dignitaries, and this is a 4-week course, and we have decided to deliver 3 lectures per week. Today, the first lecture will be delivered by the Vice Chancellor, Dr. Neerja Arun Gupta of the Gujarat University. Her topic is Roles of Temples in Communities Migration. What will be the outcome of this course? I would like to highlight it. During the course, you will be introduced to key technical diaspora vocabulary as you explore the causes of the formation and spread of India's diasporas. Second point is how India is visible in the tangible and intangible cultural expressions of its descendants in other parts of the world. Third is the similarities and differences across global India or India and its various diasporas. Fourth is the challenges and successes of adaptation and integration in foreign societies. The world of history, culture, art forms, literature, and worldview of the India's diaspora. How India's diaspora serve as a source of soft power. Next is this course brings together a galaxy of brilliant scholars from diverse parts of India's diasporas so that you may gain an entry-level knowledge about India's diasporas. You will hear from university vice chancellors, ambassadors, professors, and authors. They come from India and different parts of the diaspora. You constitute a body of learners eager to learn and explore, and many of you are already in key positions in your educational and other environments, while several are researchers. The lectures will be delivered by scholars. The first one that I have already mentioned, we will take up immediately after this, the lecture of Dr. Neerja Arun Gupta ji. The second lecture will be delivered by Professor Ghanshyam, Professor and Head History Department, Faculty of Social Sciences, Banaras Hindu University. His topic will be Diaspora in North America. Today, along with the lecture of Neerja Arun Gupta ji, Dr. Indrani Rampersad ji, who is with us and who has framed this entire course, will present a brief note on the introduction to India's global diaspora, geographical spread, key vocabulary in diaspora studies. On November 9, the lecture of Professor Deepak Malik will be organized. He is Professor Emeritus of Banaras Hindu University and Director Emeritus of Gandhian Institute of Studies. He will speak on Himalayan region. Then the next lecture will be organized on November 11 by Dr. Arvind Bisesur. He is head School of Mauritian and Aryan Area Studies, Mahatma Gandhi Institute, Mauritius. His broad topic of lecture will be similarities and differences across the diaspora. The next lecture will be on 13th of November. It will be delivered by Ambassador Virendra Gupta ji. He is former Indian ambassador, and his broad topic will be Tangible and Intangible Cultural Heritage Survey of India's heritage across the diasporas. The next lecture is scheduled on 16th of November 2024, and it will be given by Professor Ashutosh Kumar ji, current Fulbright Nehru Visiting Professor at Harvard University, USA, and he is Professor of History, Banaras Hindu University, and he is specializing in Indian diaspora. He will speak on Giribitiya diaspora in old sugar colonies of European empires and identity markers. On the same day, the second lecture will be organized and it will be delivered by Professor Rupam Saran. She is Professor of Education at Medgar Evers College, New York, USA. She will speak on Asian Indian youth in South Asian diaspora and also on the majority children of immigrants in urban schools. On 18th November 2024, the next lecture is fixed of His Highness, Dr. Roser Gopal, High Commissioner of Trinidad and Tobago to India. He is postdoctoral fellow in international relations, rooted in ancient Sanskrit literature, University of Calcutta. He will deliver a lecture on an international relations rooted in ancient Sanskrit literature. There is a very important topic. The next lecture that we have scheduled is on 28th of November 2024. Two lectures will be delivered on that day. First one of Dr. Vishnu Bisramji. He is a great scholar on Indian diaspora. And the second lecture will be delivered by Professor Anand Singhji, University of KwaZulu-Natal. He had PhD anthropology, specializes in migration, Indian diaspora, anthropology of development, sustainable development. The broad topic of the lectures of these scholars will be similarities and differences across the diaspora. The next lecture is scheduled on 22nd of November of Dr. Ambassador Manju Sethji, former Ambassador of India, Reunion Island, and Shashi Hulaji, author of India-Australia, Bharata's Legacy of History, Connection and Diaspora. The broad topic will be linkages between India and its diaspora. Then on 25th of November, Professor Vinita Sinhaji, National University of Singapore, Department of Sociology and Anthropology, she will give lecture on contours of diaspora, Hinduism, narrating complexities. And on 27th of November, Professor Ganesh Chand, former Vice Chancellor of Solomon Island National University, Fiji, he will deliver a lecture on a broad topic, history, culture, art forms, literature, and worldview of Indian diaspora. And the last lecture on 29th of November, that will be delivered by Professor Anil Suklal, High Commissioner of South Africa to India. His broad topic will be diaspora and India's soft power. This is what we have decided to deliver during this 4 weeks course in 12 lectures. And on behalf of the Banaras Hindu University, on behalf of the Bharat Adhyayan Kendra, and on behalf of the Faculty of Arts, and on behalf of all the staffs of the Bharat Adhyayan Kendra, we are delighted to welcome you to this introductory course and aim to inspire you to take up further research in this area of study. I am grateful to Indrani Rampersad ji for giving me chance to make introductory remarks about India and diaspora and tell you about the details of the lectures which will be presented during the course. Again, I welcome you to this course and hope that this will be of great benefit, because this is for the first time in the history of Banaras Hindu University that such course is being introduced. Pranam and Namaskar to everyone.
Thank you, Professor Dwivedi ji, for your most excellent presentation and your continued guidance in what we do here at Bharat Adhyayan Kendra. You have been the guidance behind me being creative and trying to give the very best that I can give at BHU. Thank you very much. So now I want to be on time with having Professor Neerja come on time, which is at 4:30. So my 10 minutes will be cut. Can we go to my PPT, please? My PPT. Very briefly, I want to talk about the terminology. The term diaspora, some of you may be hearing it for the first time, and many of you are already researchers in the area. So it referred to a historical persecution, exile, and dispersal of the Jews around the world. It initially was situated in Jewish history, but then the word changed over time. And over time, diaspora has now come to mean peoples who have left their country for whatever reason, but are situated in a community in other places. And one person wouldn't make the diaspora. You have to have a community somewhere. And my challenge has been how to categorize, say, Buddhism that went out. One great man, ISKCON, that went out. One great man went out, and we got communities of Indian diaspora now in the thought and in the dress and the food and everything. So they are a kind of diaspora, but they were not born in India. Initially, diaspora would mean you were born here and you crossed a national boundary. So we have a new meaning coming to diaspora. Features of a diaspora means you would have left your original homeland, which is India in this case. You would have kept a memory and a vision of the original homeland. I am like third and fourth generation. And before I came to India the first time, I had a memory. I had an image of India. And for us, India then is very perfect. We see it as ekdam perfect until you come and you see, well, we are just all human beings as well. But the generation of the wealth of culture and the wealth of knowledge in this place needs to be really shattered and opened up to the world. So we have a collective memory. The people who've gone out, we remember India. We partially, not wholly assimilate in the countries we've gone to, which is we still have Indian identity, which is why you know us as a diaspora, by dress, by food, by language, and so on. And some always wish to return to the original homeland. But research has shown up to about third generation, they might want to come, but a little later on, you don't get that very strong connection. And they are committed to India in helping the development of India. And you will see that later on in your studies, the kind of economic wealth and the kind of economic development, knowledge-wise also, that has happened in India with that renewal of linkages. We talk about globalization, too, is another term you would want to know. So globalization takes us a little higher with the process of we are interacting across the world, crossing boundaries and interacting in new communities. Internet, for example, is a powerful community of people. So there are three imperatives in globalization: the market, the new technology, and transnational. I've also categorized diaspora. Vertevec has done a very good job to tell us it's about, it's a social form, and he has given different, a type of consciousness. It's cultural producer, diaspora. So I'm not going to go into details there, but the terms transnationalism is another term you would come across in diaspora studies. This transnationalism is described as a pattern of migration where persons, although they move across international borders and settle and establish social relations in new places, they still maintain social connections with the political, economic, cultural situation from where they have come. So we still have like a transnational identity. And that transnational is linked to globalization. Okay, these other notes that I have, I shall be sharing as I get ready to invite Professor Neerja Gupta. I shall be sharing these with you in the email. And as I said before, please, I encourage you, ask questions, send whatever suggestions you have to us. So as I get ready to, let me introduce Dr. Neerja Gupta, who's going to talk. She's the Vice Chancellor of Gujarat University. She's going to talk on the role of temples in community migration. Means when our communities migrate outside, what is the role of the temple or the mandir in those communities? Now, she's presently the Vice Chancellor of Gujarat University, Ahmedabad, Gujarat, and she was formerly Vice Chancellor at Sanchi University of Buddhist Indic Studies. She worked as principal of Bhavan's College in Gujarat. She's a doctorate in English. She has about 36 years of academic research and administrative experience. She has proficient knowledge in 2 foreign languages, Russian and Greek, apart from 9 Indian languages like Hindi, Sanskrit, English, Gujarati, Marathi, Assamese, Urdu, Oriya, Pali, and Prakrit. She's authored 22 books and has over 60 publications to her credit. She's guided over 27 students successfully in their PhDs. She has a key role as a designated member of several distinguished board and executive councils of various universities and government bodies. Her major areas of interest include literature of English, Sanskrit, Pali, Gujarati, Hindi, Indian poetics, Indology, ancient Hindu Sanskriti, Pravasi and migration studies, Gandhian thought, Indian culture and faith, migratory art and music. And she's also a trained classical dancer in the Kathak tradition. Look at the wealth and the diversity of achievements of our people in Bharat. She has traveled extensively in India and visited over 42 countries. I want to say that to show the experience in terms of the diaspora. For academic purposes, she's visited diverse countries. She's a researcher of international repute, and I was so very, very lucky. Thank you, Vice Chancellor Ji. Thank you so much. I was so very lucky to get you to agree to deliver this lecture today. She's an outstanding researcher, and as I said before, delivered many invited talks and keynote addresses. She's a recipient of several prestigious awards, the Lions Club in particular. She received the Bharat Manthan Award 2020, the Atal Bihari Vajpayee Rashtriya Samman for contribution to diaspora studies in 2017. And there's a whole list of others. I will share the details with you online in the WhatsApp, but except to say, despite all of this, she takes an active role in community involvement. For example, disaster relief. You remember when Gujarat had that big disaster, she was central. The Kashmir floods, Sri Lanka tsunami, and we have some persons who have joined from Sri Lanka, so you'd be happy to know our Vice Chancellor also they reached out to the diaspora in other parts of the world. And Uttarakhand, flash floods. And for G20, she had a theme paper that was accepted and is part of the published book, India, the Mother of Democracy. It is my distinct pleasure and honor to invite Vice Chancellor Neerja Gupta ji to deliver her lecture. Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste, my humble pranam to all of you. Paramadharniya Kulguru of Banaras Hindu University, Professor Sudhir Jain ji. Professor Sadashiv Dwivedi ji, who is the Samanvayak of Bharat Adhyayan Kendra. The present coordinator for this course, Professor Indrani Rampersad ji. Adharniya Anuradha Goyal ji. Very distinguished participants of this course and the entire BHU. First of all, my humble pranam from my heart for including me for this inaugural session of this course. I am really, really humbled with this honor. Thank you so much. Indrani ji, sorry to disappoint you, but I don't take diaspora as a Greek word. For me, diaspora is a Sanskrit word because when the Greeks started moving all around the world, or Jews went, much before that we have Indians already moving around the world. So it is a Samas word. It is a combination of two Sanskrit roots, that is Dwi and Isfur. Dwi is at two places. Dwi is two, and Isfur is sprouted. Isfurit. So Dwi Isfur is actually the Sanskrit word, and I use all my platforms for diaspora to make this awareness that diaspora is not a Greek word, it is a Sanskrit word. Dwi Isfur. And see, when Ramayana happened, and we say Sita was the first diaspora because she visited Sri Lanka. And just like that, we also say Kuber is the part of diaspora. And if you go to mythological diaspora history, we find many interesting details about it. Since this is the inaugural lecture, so I thought let me start with a small background and then I'll jump on to my subject, that is the role of temples. But to come to the role of temples, it is very important to set the background. And that is why I took this liberty to cut your statement and replace it with that diaspora is a Sanskrit word. We should all remember that Sanskrit is the first language of the civilized world. They have borrowed so much from the Sanskrit that without these roots, we can't find the legacy of language and continuity of language in any living civilization. Forget the dead ones. We are not counting the dead civilizations at all. So for me, diaspora is us. We have been the adventurous souls. We have been the entrepreneurs of the world. We have been the navigators of the world who have gone far off. You know, the state where I live, Gujarat, it has Somnath Mandir. When you visit the Mandir of Somnath, we find one arrow. There is a globe and there is an arrow, and that arrow shows the African island. That is, if you start from this point, then till Africa, we won't find any landmass. So, up to that level, we have the navigations and the legacies of travels and trades and migrations, and diaspora, of course, is the latest term. Can I request the team to please share my PPT? Because then few things will be clear if we watch it on this screen. Till they get it, you know, diaspora and migration, they are two terms. So what is the difference between migration and diaspora? Today we see Rohingyas are entering into India. Can they be called diaspora? So the difference is that diaspora has an element, and that element is nostalgia. You feel connected. As Indrani ji said, that she is a fourth generation visitor to India. But her memory of India might be in her last generation also and previous generation also. So that connect to memory, connect to nostalgia, connect to feel that they are part of it is definitely diaspora. While migration is that you leave everything behind and you start afresh. Next, please. Oh. Yeah, so this I just told that it's a Sanskrit word. Next, please. The contrast in the academic literature, we should not get confused with the migration studies and diaspora studies. Many of the places have this twin department. They say this is the studies in diaspora and migration, but both are way apart in their studies. Next, please. The types of diaspora are two, settlers and visitors, as we know. Suppose I go and visit somewhere for my study, for my work, and come back to my country. This is the visitor diaspora. But if I go and settle down over there, they are called the settler diaspora. This is how the diasporic communities are formed, that whether we are visitors or settlers. And that is how PIOs, NRIs, and earlier and now OCIs, they are all bifurcated by the ministries, by the strategic people under these two categories only. The settlers, they need the definitions. The visitors don't need any definition because they hold the passport of the, next slide please. There are two terminologies: home country and host country. Home country is the country to which culturally a person belongs to. Again, I am giving the example of Indrani ji. Indrani ji is living abroad for 4 generations, but she would still be called an Indian. So that Indian identity is because of the home country. But her host country may change. If she lives in South Africa, it will be South Africa. If she lives in London, it would be UK. If she lives in New York, it would be USA. So we can keep on changing the host country. But our home country is our cultural identity, which cannot be changed. Today, we have about 30 million Indian people who are settled in 189 countries all about. These are the cultural soft power or cultural ambassadors who are known as Indian. Now, here I would like to say that hyphen is very important. Indo-American or American Indian. Now, these words have hyphen. Hyphen is a connector as well as hyphen is a divider. How do we take the hyphen is very important, and that is why I had to write versus. Home country versus host country. Sometimes they become oblique, like we are seeing in Canada right now. Sometimes they become very, very congenial, like it is in Nepal. It's very hard to find out who is an Indian and who is not. Next, please. This I may skip, and later on this can be circulated to the participants of this course. These are the last 2 centuries brief history. It started as Professor Sadashiv Dwivedi ji told that there are waves of our migrations. So there were indentured laborers, there were traders, there were skilled, there were non-skilled. It depended upon the maybe the requirement of the country. But one thing is very important. We have to catch up the folk song. I give it a name called Sanskritic Gathri. Each diaspora held their own Sanskritic Gathri. So someone went with lathi, someone went with dhoti, someone went with Gathri, someone went with Ramcharitmanas, whatever might be their possession, they all went with their own cultural identities. If you listen to these songs, there is a beautiful song I have heard in Mauritius, and that is Kalkatta te chalal jahaj, Leherwa dheere re chala. This actually shows the entire geography, because as we know, these indentured laborers were befooled, they were deceived, they were told that we are taking you to a country which is made of gold. Marich desh, it was said जैसे मारीच एक सोने का हिरन था, ऐसे आपको हम ले जा रहे हैं, मारीच देश ले जा रहे हैं. And when the laborers landed on there was nothing but these stones and rocks. They thought that when they removed the rocks, they would find the gold. This is what this song says. Allow me to recite few of the lines of this song. They say, And you please mark the geography also, because the port was Bhawanipur in Kolkata, and from Bhawanipur they were going to Mauritius. So the stanza says, and I'm just reciting, चलत भवानीपुर डिपो से साथ मिलेगी गिरमिटिया कौन नगरिया जाही कि रुकी है कौन खबरिया नहीं भैया अब मारीच देश है निशान भंवरवा धीरे चलाओ अब मारीच देश है निशान. So if we don't find anywhere the written document, we have to go to these archivals. We have to go to these folk songs, folk narratives, stories to find out how these indentured laborers actually migrated. And when they landed there, they actually created the entire nation. Like Mauritius was created primarily by Indians, and that is the reason 90% of the migrants in Mauritius are from Purjabia, from Purab, from Purv of India. Next, please. So this continues with the emigration to the indentured world, emigration to the industrial world. Next, please. And then the recent this migration, which has more demand of unskilled migrants. You will be really surprised to know that there was a time when there was a brain drain. And when the brain drain was there, we were sending our professionals to overseas. Today, our professionals may go out of the choice, but now this is actually the unskilled laborers who are needed more. So we need more cooks, we need more people who know the embroideries, we need more artisans, we need more kathavachak. You know, people who can narrate the cultural stories. We need more dharmik vachak who can tell the tales of spirituality. So there are the shifts in the trends in the course of time in past 2 centuries. Next, please. Right. This study I did in 2001. I'm still using it because this is the most authenticated study till date. After that, I have not been able to collect the data in the another sense, and I could not find the data anywhere else. This is the total number of PIOs, people of Indian origin. I need to add here one sad fact. The sad fact is on 15th August 1947, when India became independent, at that time, the Indian government led by Pandit Nehru made one announcement. And the announcement was those who are living abroad will be treated by the Indians living abroad and they will not remain the Indian citizens anymore. At that time, Kanhaiyalal Maniklal Munshi ji, he gave a terminology to all these Indians and called them Bharat Vanshi because they were denied to be called Bharatiya. So he gave a term and called Bharat Vanshi. And in abbreviation, we found it people of Indian origin, Bharatvanshi, Indian origin. Now the present government has clubbed all these status and all Indians are given OCI, Overseas Citizens of India. Now they are called citizens of India, but again, overseas Indians. That is how we have included these overseas Indians as part of being Indian citizens. It's a very important fact. We need to understand that what was the difference between PIO and NRI. NRI were those Indians who went after 1947 to other countries, and PIOs were those who were already there in the overseas before 1947. Next, please. I'm not reciting this data. I'm sure Madam Indrani will mail all these PPTs to the participants. So you can study and you can mail me if you have any questions based on this data. Now, this is about the Eastern Africa and other part of the world. Next, please. But the number is very high. You see, they are the people who actually struggled, who actually created those countries, who brought the modernism into those countries, and even now they face the troubles. Even now they are segregated in some portions. They can't go to all the portions, and their struggle continues. But I must appreciate to the governments that the government is very friendly to the Indians, but it's all about the synergetic, symbiotic relations with the local society, how Indian diaspora has struggled all throughout these times. Now, next, please. Now, how the Indian diaspora is important. You see, I always say when India looks to the diaspora, it is for the economic connect. But when diaspora looks at India, it is always the emotional connect. So this is very, very important connect. We need to understand that we look at the economic part, they look at the emotional part, and unless we connect with each other, this capital cannot form one unity. Now, Indian diaspora has actually marked a huge growth across the borders. But then the PIUs, they are contributing about 612 billion annually. But we need to understand that they need an emotional connect, and being an Indian, we have to raise that hand towards them. Next, please. Now, these are the sectors, these are the major sectors I have marked here. We know that they are working in the mines, in the market of diamonds, gold, infrastructure, retail sector, tourism, cultural, marketing like films and music and dance. The brain drain actually contributed into formation of new institutions overseas. We know NASA has so much of Indian scientists. Many medical fields have Indian doctors, Indian engineers, IT professionals. So all these have contributed in creating the overseas sectors. Next, please. And this is very important, to understand what my key topic is, that is the role of temple. Because I don't want to leave an impression that I'm talking about temple in a spiritual manner. It's a very important economic seat overseas and as well as, among ourselves in India. Now, here I have to talk about the small town diaspora. What I mean by small town diaspora? Once I used to go to Chardham every year. Now, once I wanted some money, so I asked my driver to stop at somewhere. The driver stopped at a place and he said, "Ma'am, this is the SBI branch." Now, you won't imagine that was a kacha hut. There was only a machine, a table, and a chair, and he said, "This is a branch." I went inside, the ATM was working properly. I could get the money, whatever I wanted. But when I was coming out, I saw a small strip, and that strip said India's richest SBI branch. Now that really caught my attention. I said, this Kacha Hut is India's richest SBI branch. They said, "Yes, ma'am." Then I said, "I would like to meet the manager." So the manager had gone to the village. I waited for him for about 4 hours. He came back. I said, "Sir, what is this?" Then he told, "See, this is Uttarakhand. In Uttarakhand, watch in the first bullet, I have written Ghansali district. Ghansali district is called the mini Japan because 95% of people of that district, which had about more than 450 villages, they have migrated to Japan as daily wagers. So each day they would remit their yen into this branch. That is how this became the India's richest SBI branch. Now, this small town, people have not even heard the name of Ghansali district. It is in Uttarkashi. This is how many of our small towns, like in Azamgarh in UP, near Raebareli. Then we come down towards south. In Telangana, there are so many small towns. In Gujarat, there are so many small towns. In Tamil Nadu, there are small towns. In Kerala, there are small towns. These small town diaspora are making India much prosperous than what we call as the cosmopolitan diaspora. The cosmopolitan diaspora does not remit money back to India, but these small town diasporas, they remit back the money to their towns, to their families, to their banks, to their societies, to their NGOs, to their trusts, to their temples. This is how India is growing because of the small town diaspora. Next, please. Now, if you see how these communities are constituted, so we can divide into West Asia, Southeast Asia, we can say the developed country, the developing country. Then on the basis of professions, we can call the new economy, which is based on biotechnology, green energy, financial services, academia, the science, and we can always say the traditional traits that they represent different cultures and different faiths. So they create communities, but these are not watertight communities. These communities intermingle because of religions, because of their native places, because of their traditions and trades and rituals. Next, please. Now, this is what my key topic today is. What are the rural